All right, get ready for a deep dive. We're going deep into the world of, well, Gothic people and characters.
Sounds intriguing.
Yeah, it is. This is you wanted to know more about this whole Gothic thing, so we found this cool list, top 10 Gothic people and characters from the Top Tens website.
The top tens, huh? So we're dealing with what, a fan-voted kind of thing?
Exactly. So it's not like super serious academic stuff, more like, what the people think, which makes it even more fun, I think.
Yeah, definitely opens up more interpretations, doesn't it?
For sure. I mean, look at this list. We've got The Undertaker, like the wrestler dude.
Oh, yeah, the whole dark persona, the theatrics.
Right. But then, boom, Edgar Allan Poe, like the OG goth.
And Tim Burton can't get more Gothic than that, visually at least.
Seriously. So I guess my first question is, like, what does this even tell us about Gothic as a concept? I mean, it's all over the place.
Well, I think it shows us that Gothic isn't really a box. It's more like a vibe. An aesthetic, they can be like dark and brooding, sure, but also playful, even whimsical.
Like, Burton definitely has that whimsical side.
Totally. And remember, it's fan-voted, right? So it's subjective. What screams Gothic to me might be totally different for you.
True, true. So, since this deep dive is all about you, which side are you leaning towards? More like Poe and Burton and that classic literary Gothic? Or are you into how Gothic pops up in, like, pop culture, like with The Undertaker, or even music?
Good question. Both sides are fascinating, really. But I gotta say, the way those Gothic elements creep into modern stuff, that's really intriguing.
Yeah, me too. Like, think about Mandy from The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. Cynical, loves all things macabre. Isn't that, like, peak modern goth kid?
Oh, for sure. And she's not just a surface-level thing either. I mean, think about it. She kind of speaks to that teenage angst, that feeling of being an outsider. Maybe that's why she resonates with people.
Right, like she's giving a voice to that not fitting in feeling, which honestly goes way back. Like traditional Gothic literature was all about isolation, alienation, rebelling against the norm.
Spot on. And there's Lucy Loud from the Loud House, too. Loves poetry, the occult, all that spooky stuff. Classic literary Gothic vibes.
Right, and it's a kid's show. Makes you wonder, is there something about the Gothic, the darkness, the mystery that just appeals to us no matter how old we are?
Well, think about it. These characters play with Gothic tropes that are centuries old. Death, the supernatural, that heightened sense of drama. It's tapping into primal fears, stuff that's always fascinated us.
Makes sense. So, stepping away from the fictional for a sec, let's talk real-life Gothic. Tim Burton got to be the poster child for a modern Gothic aesthetic, right?
Oh, absolutely. His films, the humor, the visuals, they're just dripping with Gothic flair. Grotesque, macabre, but also whimsical. There's that childlike wonder there, too.
It's a weird mix, but it works. Like, his movies aren't just doom and gloom. There's an energy there, a spark of hope. Maybe that's why everyone loves them.
Yeah, I think you're onto something. It's like those ornate Gothic cathedrals. Kind of creepy, but so much beauty and detail in the darkness. Finding beauty in those unexpected places, that's like a Gothic superpower. Speaking of unexpected, we got to talk about Edgar Allan Poe. I mean, he's basically the godfather of American Gothic literature.
Oh, Poe, for sure. Gets right into those dark corners of the mind, doesn't he? Death, decay, psychological torment, the whole nine yards. He kind of set the blueprint for what we consider Gothic literature today.
He did. And the crazy thing is he was tapping into fears that were real then and still resonate now. Like the unknown, our minds being so fragile, death being inevitable. Heavy stuff, but he writes it so beautifully, so vividly. It's like timeless. Ever notice how his stories kind of blur the lines between what's real and what's imagined?
Totally. It's like he drops you into this world where the rules don't apply anymore. And that feeling, like not knowing what's real, that's so Gothic, isn't it? Think of those old Gothic paintings like Goya, Fuseli, distorted figures, nightmares, but beautiful at the same time.
Exactly. That ambiguity, messing with our perception, we're still drawn to that today. Pan's Labyrinth, even The Matrix, they all kind of play with that Gothic idea of blurring reality.
Like the Gothic gives us permission to explore those dark parts of our minds where logic takes a back seat. Maybe that's why Gothic characters are often like outsiders, rebels.
Yeah, that rebellion thing, it's a big part of the Gothic. Challenging norms, questioning authority, embracing what society says is wrong, finding beauty in the unconventional, even the kind of disturbing stuff.
Speaking of unconventional, we got to mention Raven from Teen Titans. Brooding hero, powerful but with a dark past. Inner demons. Classic.
Oh yeah, Raven's a perfect example of that Gothic duality thing. Light and dark, battling her own powers, trying to find balance. Powerful stuff.
It is, and it speaks to that bigger Gothic theme that darkness and light aren't opposites, but two sides of the same coin. Like, we all have our shadows, right? The stuff we don't want to look at.
And the Gothic says, hey, look at them, confront them. Not about denying the darkness, but understanding it. Maybe even using it for good.
Now, for a totally different Gothic vibe, there's Gaz from Invader Zim. Sardonic, obsessed with video games and all things paranormal, and that don't mess with me aura. Not your typical damsel in distress.
Right. Gaz shows us that Gothic can be super modern, not just castles and graveyards anymore. It's about embracing what makes you different, even if it freaks people out a little.
It's about challenging those expectations, which I guess is the core of the Gothic, right?
Definitely. Finding your own path, your own tribe, even if it means standing out from the crowd.
All right, gotta talk about Gwen from Total Drama. The punk goth look, loves horror movies, totally independent. She's like a gothic, aesthetic evolution, blended with other subcultures.
Totally agree. Gwen takes those classic Gothic elements, the darkness, the rebellion, and makes them edgy, modern. She shows us that Gothic can be a way to express yourself, be an individual, not conform.
Like, this is me, deal with it. Pretty empowering, especially for like young people trying to figure themselves out.
Absolutely. Owning your identity, celebrating what makes you unique, finding your people, those who get you.
Okay, now for a character who might not scream gothic at first glance. Haiku from The Loud House. Quiet, thoughtful, loves poetry, has this like fascination with the morbid, subtle gothic vibes.
Right. Haiku shows us that Gothic isn't always loud and obvious. It can be quiet, introspective, like darkness and beauty existing together. The most profound stuff sometimes comes from just observing with a quiet eye.
Like, she sees the beauty in things others miss, the poetry in the everyday, even the macabre. She's telling us to look deeper, find meaning in unexpected places.
And that's one of the best things about exploring this whole Gothic thing. Thinking critically, questioning assumptions, finding meaning where others don't even look.
Man, this list has taken us on quite a ride. So many different characters, creators, all showing us what Gothic can be. It really is more than just like a style, isn't it? It's everywhere.
It is, and it's deeper than just ticking off traits. It's about those bigger cultural forces that shaped these people and, still influence us today. Think about it. The Gothic started during crazy times, social upheaval, all that. It was a way to, critique the powers that be, question everything, and even deal with the anxieties of the time.
Huh, yeah. And we still see that today, don't we? Like, all those dystopian books, horror works, even some fashion trends, they're all kind of tapping into that same Gothic vein, exploring our fears about, I don't know, the future, technology, the dark side of humanity, all that.
Exactly. The Gothic gives us this way to look at those uncomfortable truths, the stuff we don't want to face head on. We can deal with fear, loss, all that heavy stuff, but often with a bit of dark humor or even beauty.
Okay, speaking of uncomfortable, we gotta address the elephant in the room. Sometimes Gothic, as a label, well, it can be a bit controversial, right? Some people love it, others think it's misused or even dismissive. What's your take?
You're right. Labels can be tricky, especially with subcultures, what I call Gothic. You might not. The thing is, got to be respectful, open-minded. There's no one right way to define Gothic.
Right. So for our listener who's been with us this whole time, what's the big takeaway? Why should they care about this whole Gothic thing?
Well, even if you don't call yourself Gothic, understanding it gives you a new way to look at art, books, music, even your own thoughts and feelings. It's about those universal themes, darkness, beauty, being alone, rebelling, stuff that's resonated with people forever.
It's like giving yourself permission to explore the shadows, inside and out, embracing the different, the macabre, even the stuff that makes others squirm.
And stepping back even further, it's seeing how these themes are still evolving, showing up in our culture. True crime podcasts, people getting into the occult, all the dark humor online. It's all part of that fascination with the Gothic, with those hidden parts of being human.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's a thought to leave you with. Look at the stuff you love. The books, movies, music, whatever. See any Gothic elements in there, what draws you to them. The humor, the mystery, exploring those taboo topics. Whatever it is, go with that curiosity. Keep digging into the world of Gothic art and culture. You might be surprised what you find out, not just about the world, but about yourself, too.